Hey, Unruly Subjects, it's Chenjerai, and I need your help to keep the show going strong. If you love what we do here, consider supporting us by joining our Patreon community. It's the best way to back the show, and you get some incredible benefits in return. Membership starts at just $5 a month. I mean, there's nothing that cheap, at least in New York. And you immediately get ad-free episodes and exclusive premium episodes. That includes interview outtakes and other extras you ain't gonna hear anywhere else. But that's not all. You can access the Unruly chat and polls. When we have a live event, you're gonna get the pre-sale tickets and the merch. Oh my God, the merch. You know the merch is gonna be fly. And you receive invitations to our Q&A live streams and, my favorite, our annual exclusive hangout with me, the producers, and a special guest. So yo, come on people, join the Unruly mob. Visit patreon.com/Unruly Subjects. And thank you for making this show possible. Unruly Subjects, Happy New Year. Welcome to the new year. Man, listen, it has already been a lot, you know what I'm saying? The onslaught never stops. But I hope y'all got a chance to recharge a little bit, slow down a little bit and spend some time with some people you care about. We're going to be back next week with a full episode of the show. And I can't wait for you to hear what we got cooking up. But right here, I wanted to share a segment that we've already aired. But it's something that a lot of people haven't heard. It's one of our most interesting segments on how people balance their love lives and the struggle. You know what I'm saying? So each week, I leave a question that I want you to call our Unruly Hotline and answer. And the hotline is 215-436-9212, by the way. And you can call and leave your thoughts. So early on in the show, I asked the question, how do you balance your love life with the struggle? You know what I'm saying? And by the struggle, for me, the struggle involves a lot of political work, right? Organizing and kind of balancing that with the other part of the struggle, which is just like the sort of blender of family life and work. And so some really interesting folks called up, you know what I'm saying? My man, Louis LaRue McCoy, an incredible intellectual scholar and organizer. Sarah Jaffe, an organizer and journalist from Heart Reacts. She called in. Edgar Ruiz from The Moth, an incredible storyteller and comedian. So all kinds of interesting folks called. And, we reflected on those calls. So I just want y'all to hear this and share it. So here it is. Unruly Subjects Love Struggle. So last week on the first episode of Unruly Subjects, I asked y'all a question, and I invited y'all to call the Unruly Hotline at 215-436-9212. And from what I could see, the phone line started lighting up. Y'all left some messages, so, I appreciate that because, I wanted us to just have this conversation. So I'm going to have my producer, John, with Row Home. John, could you pull up the voicemails and let's hear what the people had to say. The question, by the way, was just to remind you, how do you balance the struggle with your love life, right? And I gave people some leeway to describe what you mean by the struggle, but that's something I deal with in my own life, and I want to hear what y'all said on voicemail. So what do we got, John?
Hey, what's going on? This is Edgar from Mount Vernon, and the struggle is real. I have a 9 and a 6-year-old that's a first and a fourth grader with learning disabilities, and my wife is an executive director. And after her 12-hour days and 4 hours of homework every night, and by the time we feed them and bathe them and get them to sleep, we have 5 minutes to ourselves. Ain't nobody trying to be sexy after all that.
I definitely relate to that.
But sometimes we do this. We basically have these scheduled intimacy maintenance, where we make sure we spend quality time at the end of the night with each other. We turn off the phones and all the other world stuff that's going on, and we just make sure that we hanging out with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it's not always a sexual thing. It's talking about the books that we read and maybe watching a little TV show together where we could talk about it while we're watching it. And we just make time for ourselves and making sure that we are okay, because it's a lot. The struggle is real. Two kids is a lot these days, and everything else that the world is throwing at us. And we just got to make sure that our relationship, she's my best friend and I'm her best friend. We got to make sure that we are okay to make sure that the next day runs smoothly. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Wow. Yeah. The struggle is real. By the way, that was my friend Edgar Ruiz. He's a host of The Moth, and you should definitely check out his work. And if you're in New York, you should go to a Moth Story Slam. But what Edgar said is real, super real. I mean, there's so many things I relate to, like listen, what he's saying about the family side of it. I mean, that's having kids, and they have kids who have some learning disabilities, and that's a lot of people out there. That is a real part of the struggle. And but I got to say, I almost feel like the way you talked about how you work through that, I'm like, I think I could learn from that, actually. Just you said, scheduling time for intimacy and personal time feels like kind of awkward. But to me, with the way you described it, I feel like, so sometimes I feel like my wife and we're just so exhausted that you don't have the energy to even check in with each other and really connect. And like you said, it doesn't always have to be physical, right? Listen, physical is nice. Let's not get it twisted. But even as a prelude to that, right? It's like, just to, read a book together. I'm proud of y'all for making time for that. I love the way that you're negotiating this, Edgar. And I think that ultimately, though, the struggle is to try to think about larger obstacles like work and not having, do we have the right systems in place to help with our children? And, is there a way maybe for us to socialize some of that childcare or tap into networks so that it's not all on us? Because I feel like it's often posed to us like it's just up to you. It's just you and your habits, right? And if you don't cultivate the right habits with your partner, then it's on y'all. It's y'all's individual failure, as opposed to like we're actually in a world, a system that has created these obstacles. And so I want a world where everybody can do that. But I think I love how y'all are at least navigating that. Man, thank you for being so transparent. John, what else we got?
The way that I balance my love life and the struggle is...
You got to be with a black person. You got to be a black couple.
All right, I'm in a black couple.
Second, you have to prioritize your own household, your own relationship, what's happening in your own mind, your own body, your own soul. You control that and then exude the love and the resistance into the outside world.
Oh, and then finally, you got to put God first. It helps to do meditation and yoga and work out and eat healthy, eat clean, and black first.
And with that, you have the strength and the stamina and the focus and the clarity to navigate the struggle and your assignment in the struggle.
Amen.
Peace.
Wow. I really appreciate that message. I mean, listen, what I hear from this message is you have to kind of find a way to prioritize what's happening within you and be in touch with that, because in the end of the day, I don't know that you can find any kind of like peace or pleasure, intimacy if you're not at least somehow grounded, and the world is constantly making us not grounded. And y'all are talking about some of the things that give you that grounding and connection, whether it's you have a spiritual practice. Not everybody, is spiritual in that regard, right? But everybody has to make meaning somehow out of the world. So I feel that, talking about the role of health and all that. So I all of that does feel, I relate to that. And I'm glad it was nice hearing y'all roll that out. I hope there was some medicine or something in there for other folks. My ambivalence about it is just that I just think about a lot of people who don't control the circumstances of our own, we don't necessarily even control our own bodies out here, right? People's bodies are being taken, subjected to other things. So that's one thing. I don't know. I mean, for me, it does feel like a choice, but I guess even when you're in a rough situation, you gotta think through that. But I appreciate the reminder, because I struggle with whether I'm allowed to prioritize myself. When I see, some of the fights out here, whether it's people dealing with genocide or whether it's struggles in my own workplace or whether it's things to do with ICE, sometimes I'm not sure if I can just prioritize my own world and my own, or even my own body. I feel like I have to kind of sacrifice those things or put those things to the side because there are other people. Sometimes I'm not sure if solidarity literally means that I can't prioritize myself in that way. But I think probably, you all are right that there's no way to get to the other stuff if you can at least attend to yourself a little bit, and that you probably will be a better participant to engage the struggle if you do that. So I appreciate the reminder. And yeah, that's cool. John, what else we got?
Hi, friend. So I feel personally attacked by your choice of this question this week. I started this advice podcast with my friend Craig Gent like a year and a half ago or something, maybe 2 years. I don't know what is time. We do it every couple of weeks, and we're on episode 32. So we get a lot of messages from people on the broad left, and a lot of them are about relationships on the left, relationships with organizing, relationships in organizing, the way that bad relationships in organizing can screw up an organizing, project, whatever. And then, I have my own shit. And one of the things that I find really striking about both being a human in the world in the year of our fascism 2025 and also having a bunch of strangers asking me advice on their love lives is like how much we all want to be known and seen and loved and how hard it is. And I find this is true in my own life as I do in the stories that I hear as a journalist. And I just think it's heartbreaking, again, personally for me, struggling to sort of figure out how to be close to people in this world when that's sort of all we want and all that brings us meaning. And also, why is it so hard? Some combination of liberal individualism, neoliberal garbage, work, trauma, all of the oppression and bullshit and garbage that we've grown up with. It's just really difficult to give advice on it because I'm struggling with it too. And appropriately, and siren is going off in the background as I say this.
Wow. Yeah, listen, there's a couple of things that stand out. One is I appreciate you kind of thinking in a real time way. Like you like me, you like, I don't have this figured out. You and your partner ain't quite got it all figured out. And I appreciate that because sometimes that's real. That's where it's at. But it's still, I don't know. There's something in it for me to hear you just, I'm not, at least we're not alone in not having it figured it out. Right. And that's important. Another thing that stood out is you talking about, people want to be loved. And, you hear it like when people are asking for advice, when people are trying to figure this out, when people are trying to connect with each other, maybe like on the front lines of struggle, maybe in their own personal struggle, like Edgar, is people in the end of the day want love. And in a way, we have a world and systems that are in the way of that. We was promised jetpacks, y'all, and leisure. And that doesn't seem to be what we have. What we have is like endless obstacles to even seeing and connecting with the person in front of you. So if you're feeling that way, you're not alone. And also the political component is like, you're like, yo, bad relationships can screw up movements. That's real. That's 100% real. I've definitely seen that. Not just individuals in the way that we burn out and then don't have the capacity to engage in struggle, but also like, what it does to other people. Cause now, you know what I'm saying? You done fell out with this person. Y'all was a unit, but now people got to kind of choose sides. They want to support this person. Now they know you. Maybe they were just seeing you as a movement person, but now they also know you as somebody who's either toxic or in a relationship. So yeah, that's another reason why to figure this out. So again, I appreciate, you thinking in a live way about that with us. So yeah. John, we got anything else?
Peace, Chenjerai, and Unruly Subjects, fam. So when I think about the question of love and the struggle and relationships and the struggle, as a black man, as a black cis man, as a black hetero man, my first thought is, what does it mean to struggle together, right? So I'm in a relationship with a woman who was an activist long before I entered her life. And as we chose to come together, we would do work together. And so that means sometimes we'd be doing Know Your Rights. Sometimes we'd be out at protests. But it got really complicated when we decided to have kids. So in particular, I think about folks like Betty Shabazz. I think about folks on the liberal side like Michelle Obama. And I think about the myriad of women in the struggle who felt like their partners, who were men, went out to do the work of the struggle and left them at home. So like the narrative of black women as single mothers amidst the struggle, or black men married to the struggle, losing the love of their life, or submitting to the idea of struggle as greater than love is what I'm working against. Because sometimes our notion of struggle is just a reinforcement of patriarchy. My goal as a partner is to figure out what are the times that I can be present, what are the times that she can be present, and how do we make sure that we are nurturing things on the home front and on the political front. And until we do that, I think as men and acknowledging our male privilege, what we're not doing is actually addressing the struggle. We're recreating the systems that we claim to want to be tearing down. So hope that made sense, and I hope you've got some answers.
Wow. I mean, look, that's a whole bar. It's a lot there. And I will say that, that's a thing that my wife and I are mindful of. And, there's some effort there to try to avoid those patterns, right? Of charismatic man out in the struggle while the reproductive labor is left to other folks, and you putting yourself at risk and family at risk in all kind of ways that maybe folks didn't really consent to. We try to be mindful of those, but I would say being mindful really for me is just about an ongoing process of accountability, because I know I'm failing at that. You know what I mean? Shit, I'm probably failing right now, right in this time frame. But, we are having the conversations, and man, I think that was my brother Doomy. Doomy, I appreciate you. So yeah, I appreciate y'all. You know what I mean? Leaving the voice messages, calling up the hotline, 215-436-9212. This week, we're going to have another question for you, all right? And this week, I'm shifting gears. It's related a little bit, but it still is kind of in the family sort of like reproductive labor space. By the way, that's just a big word we talk about family and how we take care of ourselves. I hope y'all ready. This week's question is this. I'm noticing some real differences in how people raise their children. And some of the people that I'm in community with, it looks like on the surface those are sort of like racial or ethnic differences in child rearing culture. Give you an example. I was with a friend recently, and his child was running all over this restaurant we were. This kid was running up and down the restaurant. It's not the first time I've seen this. Now, to me, right, like I know when I bring this example to a lot of my black friends, right, they're like, yeah, that's just how white people are with their kids. They don't do I mean, look, I know. But my thing is, I don't want to paint us with a broad brush, but if you talk to a lot of black people, they're going to tell you there's a kind of thing where they're like, yeah, white people's kids can talk to their parents any way, any crazy way. Ask the black people in your life if they've ever at least heard of this. If not, they buy into it. Now, the problem is that, of course, that kind of sort of generalization might not really be it in the end of the day. Of course, there are white people who discipline their children and who want to, raise their children in some kind of cooperative way and have some kind of boundaries. And so a friend of mine raised the question. He said, Chenj, maybe it's not racial, maybe it's generational, right? Because it is true that when I think of some of the examples of that I'm seeing right now in my life, they are people who are like at least 10 years younger than me as parents. And so and again, I approach this with compassion because I know everybody's trying to undo the parts of how they were raised that they didn't like. And a lot of that, at least in this country and in this world, is like there's a very authoritarian approach to parenting that just kind of doesn't recognize children as agents, is not compassionate to what they might be dealing with. But anyway, what do y'all think? 215-436-9212. Are these differences, is it really about generation? Is it about race and ethnicity and culture? I mean, share your experiences. You got, the hotline, you only got 3 minutes, but I would love to hear what y'all think. Have y'all seen this? Let us know. Unruly Subjects is supported by listeners just like you. Join us at patreon.com/unrulysubjects.